Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the June 28th, 2023 Planning Board meeting. Pardon my voice, it's a little bit hoarse after the last week I've had, and so if you have trouble hearing me, don't hesitate. Keith, you can jump in if, if you hear something that's not clear. A few announcements to make. The emergency exits are to your left and right. The restrooms are out the back and to the left. Please be sure to sign the attendance sheet, which is on the table in the back. I see some are as they come in, but if you haven't, either if you're presenting or just attending, we'd like to make sure that you're recorded as having attended the meeting. There are business cards in the back table in case you need them with contact information for the planning department. Also on the back table are copies of resolutions that will be read this evening with the agenda. Please turn off your cell phones, silence them if necessary, and if you have any need to have conversations amongst you yourselves, please take them out of the door and once into the hallway and back, and please close the doors so that you won't interrupt those wanting to present or approach the board during the meeting. Now that I've got the announcements out of the way, I'd like to start off the board with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do you have any meeting minutes for approval, Lisa?
No, I don't have any.
Okay.
Thank you.
We've received several correspondence items, two on regarding Rawson Road, one from Bob Herzog and another from Marcia Senges. That's for the 7200 Rawson Road PDD, which we'll be discussing this evening. And two for the Hearn Pole Barn, one from Trevor Giles and one from Martin Lieber. Boards and committee updates. Ed, any reports from the town board?
Just one real quick is that this will be my last meeting in liaison. Mike Guinan will follow me, just so you know that, for the next meeting. And based on our last meeting, I did talk with the town board and recommend that they respond back on several of your questions from last meeting. Haven't got any responses yet, but I will follow up.
Great. Thank you. Keith, are you doing the next meeting?
Yes.
Good evening, Keith Maynard, the Stormwater Program Manager for the Town of Victor, to go over the agenda for your Tuesday, July 11th Planning Board meeting. The first public hearing will be the Cody Pole Barn, and the applicant is requesting approval to construct a 2,688 square foot barn for personal usage. The second public hearing would be for Mobile Graphics Building. Applicant is requesting approval to demolish a pre-existing barn shed and construct a 7,488 square foot building to support their existing business operation. The building will have two one-bedroom accessory apartments, and this is a 1.76 acre property.
It's on Lane Road, correct?
Correct. And then there is also a sketch application for Collier Park, and this is 606 County Road 9. And the applicant is requesting acknowledgement of a complete application for a 6-lot, single-family residential subdivision on 12.925 acres, again located at 606 County Road 9. Lot 1 has an existing house and is proposing a pole barn. This is the first step of a major subdivision. Only acknowledgement of a completed application will be considered at this meeting. And then any carryovers from tonight. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The first item on the agenda this evening is for a waiver to a driveway on 7162 Piper Meadows. Owner James Stango. Applicant is requesting a waiver from the design and construction standards for the width of the driveway at the right-of-way line being 35 feet and not the 20-foot standard width. Someone here for that? Oh, come on up.
Need me to talk to it, explain it a little bit more?
Yeah, just introduce the project and
Okay, well, good evening. My name's Jim Stango. We just moved into the property back in December of last
You
year.
can step a little closer to the mic, that'd be great.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so we moved into the property in December of last year, so it's new construction, and one thing that we quickly realized was it was very difficult to back out of the driveway, especially if you're in the Third Bay area, mostly due to the proximity of the house relative to the right-of-way there. So as you back out, we've had a lot of visitors go over what would be the grass once it's actually planted. So we just wanted to widen it a little bit more. So you can see we've had a lot of visitors recently. Unfortunately, my wife was in an accident, so we've had a lot of family over to help support. But you can see how it's kind of difficult to have somebody on the right-hand side of the driveway and still get by them without them having to back out and go through what would be the grass in that area. So we're just asking for about 10 extra feet or so down at the base of the driveway there to be able to make it easier to get in and out on that side of the driveway.
Okay, thank you. I think so, yeah. Okay, yeah, I was just confirming that this is not a public hearing. So questions from the board, Al?
Would the proposed widening meet the town code for the setback? Is my one question.
Pavement to the property line is?
Yeah.
the setback? Sounds like a West question.
So I'll ask the applicant, because I don't have a copy of the plan in front of me, but I guess we know the town's requirement via detail RS6 and the design and construction standards. Would your driveway still be 10 feet off the property line?
As long as Morel put the upper portion of the driveway in correctly with that setback, this would be within that
Be
boundary.
consistent?
It would be consistent to that. Actually, a little bit tighter in to my property.
Yeah, okay.
And it looks like it's approximately 16 feet at the top.
Yeah, I think he's going to be okay. We can double check that. Maybe it's as a condition of approval, if you wanted to move forward with that.
Okay, that's my only question, Joe.
Okay, Joe?
I have no questions.
No, I don't think I have any questions. I'm just looking at the map that you have, and it looks like 15 and a half feet from the property line to the outermost portion of the garage, and if the edge of pavement follows that, I think you should have the 10-foot minimum, so it looks pretty okay. I think it's been justified well by the applicant.
Great, Ernie, questions?
As this widening is going to go both from the garage to the sidewalk and on the other side of the sidewalk closer to the road?
That's correct.
I think there was some comment about the right-of-way.
I don't think I have that.
This doesn't have code comment. It's up to the board.
At least that's in the code comments.
No code comments. Nope,
All right, so no,
it's up to you guys.
Okay. That's all I have.
okay, great. Yeah, with Scott's sort of looking over his shoulder and at my drawing too, that the 15 and a half foot, it looks like it's going to line up with the edge of the house, straight out to the drive.
That's right, with just a slight taper.
Yeah. Do you have to modify the curb line?
No, I wouldn't expect to. It's pretty consistent all whole way across. I think they made it pretty adjustable for whoever wants to put their driveway on one side or the other relative to the garage.
Okay. All right, that would be more complicating if you had to do something with the gutter or curb along there. But other than that, I don't have any issues, and we do have a draft resolution here. If anyone, you guys are okay with it, I can read that and move it forward. Okay. Seems pretty straightforward application, so. On the Stango driveway waiver, 7160 Piper Meadows, whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are 3 of them. Now therefore be it resolved that the planning board waives the portion of the town's design and construction standard driveway layout detail RS6 that limits a maximum driveway width of 20 feet at the right-of-way to allow for a driveway width of 35 feet at the right-of-way for the subject property. Do We hear a motion for approval.
Move it.
Scott moves,
Second.
Ernie seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried 5-0. All set.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Good evening. Thank you, commissioners and staff. My name is Natasha Ernst, and I'm here for the Dish Wireless co-location application on the tower at 701 High Street. I'm with Tilson Technology Management, and we are the agent for Dish Wireless on this project. Dish will be taking the top spot on the tower. It's currently occupied by Sprint, but since the Sprint T-Mobile merger, everything will be serviced from the T-Mobile line, and that leaves the top spot available. And Dish is also the new entrant into the area, so it's nice when they can take Sprint spot. All of their ground equipment will go in unused space that was previously developed for other wireless carriers with some slight new power construction. Any questions?
So this is 701 High Street, where the water tower is on the pole adjacent to the water tower. Questions from the board? Al?
Just from the drawings, it looks like it doesn't do anything to add to the height of the tower.
Nope, it will take the same space.
And then on the ground footprint, there's an additional cabinet, or was it, or not?
No, there's additional equipment, but it's going into
Inside
an
an
unused
existing-
shelter. Yeah,
Okay.
so that's really nice.
That's all I had.
Okay, Joe?
And I think I understood you to say that you're just filling space that's been vacated by a predecessor, you're going.
Yeah, Sprint Wireless and T-Mobile merged. So Sprint is removing its antennas, and Dish Wireless will put their antennas at that location on the tower.
Very
So
good.
Vertical real estate.
Sure, thank you.
Ernie?
And there can be no lighting on it, right?
No lighting. No lighting anywhere. The tower is not currently lit, and no new lighting will be.
Thank you.
Is being proposed, yeah.
Pat?
No questions.
Okay. Wes, any comments?
Yeah, just real quick, nothing that's going to stand in the way of the planning board moving forward here. The July 7th, or June 27th, Labella letter, we had a couple of technical comments. Lighting, you've addressed that already. The structural analysis report, we didn't take any issues with that. And the applicant, they've acknowledged that their requirement to file an annual report with the town certifying that the applicant and/or its successors or assigns are complying with its maintenance and inspection procedures and record systems, and that the telecommunications facility is not a hazard or a threatened hazard to the health or safety of the public per Victor Town Code. So we don't have anything further. I'm all set.
Okay, great. Thank you, Wes. I believe this is public hearing, so I'll open the floor up to the public for comment or question, if anyone has, for the applicant or the town. Planning board, now's the time. Hearing or seeing none, and I don't think we get anything from online. I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Move. Second.
Ernie seconds, Al moves. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried 5-0. Public hearing is closed. Any other comments from the board? I believe we're
Nope.
pretty supportive of this without comment. So with that, I will read the resolution for approval of the Dish Wireless at High Street, 701 High Street, application 23 SP 2023 and 04 SU 2023. Whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact, and there are 11 of them. Now therefore be it resolved that that no potential significant adverse environmental impacts were identified with the proposed action using the criteria for determining a significance identified in 6 NYCRR Section 617.7C1 and in accordance with 6 NYCRR Section 617.7C2 and 3, and the Town of Victor Planning Board hereby finds and concludes excuse me, that the proposed action will not present a potential significant adverse environmental impact and hereby issues a negative declaration. Be it further resolved that the applications of Tilson on behalf of Dish Wireless, site plan and special use permit entitled Dish Wireless at High Street drawn by Temsco PC dated May 9th, 2023, received by the Planning Board Secretary June 6, 2023, Planning Board Site Plan Application 23 SB 2023, and Special Use Application Number 04 SU 2023 be approved with the following conditions. Conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. 1 is standard. 2, that the comments in the letter dated June 27th, 2023 from Labella Associates be addressed. Ongoing conditions, both of those two elements are standard, and be it further resolved that the planning board secretary distribute the planning board's approval letter. On that resolution, do I hear a motion of approval?
I'll move.
Ernie moves.
I'll second.
Scott seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried 5-0. Third item on the agenda this evening, Hearn Pole Barn. This is a public hearing, 218 Hidden Brook Trail. Owner is Timothy Hearn. Application 22 SB 2023. The zoning is residential 2. Applicant is requesting approval to construct a 46 by 72-foot metal pole barn for personal recreational purposes. Good evening.
Good evening. Hello, everybody. My name is Tim Hearn. This is my wife, Sue. As you just said, we're looking to construct a 46 by 72 pole barn at our residence. The main intent of the pole barn is personal recreation, as you said, really to give us a space and our kids a space to be active in the winter. Started with our son who likes to play basketball, and we had nowhere to go play basketball in the winter. He can't just go to any school and go in a gym, so that was the thought process there. And then other sports, soccer, baseball, pickleball as a family. Again, a way to just stay active and get them off the video games in the winter.
Quite the project.
Play outside.
Yeah, and a lot of it we're doing outside in the summer now that, would be inside, but obviously can't do that in the winter.
I'll ask a quick question here about access to the building itself. It looks like you're not proposing any kind of driveway or
Correct.
gravel or otherwise?
Yep. Correct.
Okay. Open it up to the board. Joe?
I'm glad to hear you say a little bit more about what the recreation purposes were going to be. I had pictured a structure this size as potentially, indoor go-kart track, ATVs, dirt bikes.
Just for our family, no,
Okay.
nothing like that.
One of the concerns, I think, from the letters that we received too was potential for woodworking equipment, things of that nature as well.
Nope, nothing like that.
Okay. Scott?
I think, I don't think I have any question. I understand what the applicant wants to do. I just think, from a comment perspective, that it's a very large structure going in a relatively small lot comparatively, from a scale perspective.
Yep.
You normally see a barn, a pole barn of this size on a much larger lot.
Yep.
And I suspect that's what's feeding the comments that we've received from the neighbors. That's all I have.
Thanks, Scott. Ernie?
No, I had the same comment as Scott. It seemed awfully big for the property.
How tall is the barn?
It starts at 18 feet and will go up as high as 20, 25, 26, kind of like this.
So, maybe I didn't see this, but the construction of the barn itself, are you using trusses across? So you've got 18 feet, the length of the barn?
Yeah.
Okay. Trying to understand the dimension here, and it is a large barn. It is a public hearing, so I am going to open the floor to the public. So if there's anyone here, neighbors or others in the public that are interested in addressing this application, floor is open. On forward, name and address.
Hi, my name's David Ortiz. Should be presenting something myself. I live at 454 Fisher Road, so I'm not a direct neighbor. I've heard of it, but I myself have a large family, have a lot of kids at home. We homeschool, and I remember my own experiences growing up, just hearing what they're saying. It sounds like a fantastic idea and something that brings a lot of value to the family and to the social setting, the kids, the friends that they have. I think, notwithstanding comments about the size of it relative to the thing, but just, I remember being a kid having friends who had a basketball court in an old wood barn, and it worked. It kind of had its limitations, but that's something that adds a lot of value to family's social circle for their own value, but also having a place to build community with friends in school, like you said, keeping the kids off the video games, but having a place where friends know to go to that place, can have a lot of fun, can play sports in the winter, a safe, trustworthy place. That does add a lot of value and support to a community in general when you have that kind of thing. So just as a father and someone in the community as well, I hear what they're trying to do, and I'm actually pretty excited to hear that. That sounds like a great value.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else would like to address the board or the applicant?
Question, Joe.
Oh, sure.
Is this going to be heated? How?
Oh, the answer was yes. If one of you at least could come up to the microphone so you can answer it directly.
I don't know that we've.
Gotta get on the
The
record.
answer is
Thank you.
yes, but I don't think we have all the specifics yet of how it's going to be heated.
It is insulated.
It's going to be insulated, yes, which
What
is
is
one
the
of
form
the
of
concerns
heating
was the
unit?
noise. I'm sorry?
Be electric, gas?
Just electric. though.
Electric.
We don't have a gas line,
Or you could put propane?
possibly.
Yeah.
So it's uncertain at the moment, it sounds like, what you're gonna heat it with, but the intent is to insulate it, heat it,
Yes,
have it ready for
yes.
winter use.
Yep. And I think the insulation will help with the noise concerns too, that I think a couple neighbors had. I don't see that being an issue.
Mhm.
So Joe, just a couple of comments. So again, I have no issue at all with the purpose and quite honestly, the size. But given some of the feedback we received from some of the neighbors, my suggestion would be if there's anything that could be done to improve the aesthetics of the face of the building,
Yep.
as well as some landscaping to, kind of make it a little less obvious. I noticed the aerial across the street, there seems to be a large building that's well-treed and
Yep.
Yes.
kind of shielded from the road, so if we could try to mimic something like that, I think that would be helpful to mitigate some of the concerns of the neighbors.
Agreed. Yep.
Anyone else from the public have any questions? Step right up.
I'm Darrell Russell, I just live over at Drumlins, but seeing this, what about the drainage from the roof? Seems sizable. Where's the drainage going on this?
Excellent question. That was something I was gonna direct towards our engineer, so if there's any comments from Labella.
Yeah, so Labella, we did issue a comment letter, although it was just today. We do have some questions and some comments for the applicant, and they don't necessarily have to be answered right this moment. But we did notice that, so with the site plan requirements, we'd like to see a drawing, a scaled drawing that provides, some information in terms of the proximity to the septic system. And I know, I've seen the hand-drawn graphic of the markup of the survey, which is up there. I know we've had other applicants with very similar applications, and we've asked them to put together a drawing designed by a licensed professional to help us be confident in terms of the separation distance between the barn and the septic system, as well as identify any potential grading that might happen or existing contours, so we understand what's going on with drainage. So if for example, if you're going to have gutters and downspouts, and if you're going to be discharging that roof drainage to splash blocks, we'd like to understand where that water is going to be heading. And so that's why it would be important for us, or for me, at least in my perspective, or our perspective at Labella, to see where that water is heading. So any pertinent information with regard to drainage, grading, proximity to septic system, landscaping has been touched on already. The driveway, you've addressed that comment. We understand now that there's not going to be a driveway associated with this. And then any lighting. And I think maybe the codes had talked to you or made a comment about lighting, and I think you guys have already responded to lighting. So that's the extent of Labella's comments.
And I think we did respond to Labella's comments today, and we just got them today.
Yeah.
So we looked at them pretty quickly. We did send a response today.
Okay.
But I think a couple hours ago, so may not have been gotten yet.
So to address the question, right regarding where is it, the drainage? It sounds like you've got gutters with the downspouts.
As of right now, that it does not have gutters. If it's required, we can add them.
So you just sheet flow off the edge of the roof?
As of right now.
Okay. Okay.
That's a
If
big
they're
area.
required, we'll definitely add them.
Yeah. Well, I think it's just, I think it's something that needs to be considered and maybe even designed for. You know, whether or not you capture that into a rain barrel, there's probably alternatives to, you know, gutters and downspouts or downspouts instead of on the splash blocks. I'm just not sure how you'd want to design that, but.
Our property is pretty low comparable to our neighboring properties.
Okay.
It's pretty hilly.
So you don't have, you wouldn't be impacting adjoining properties. Is there any potential that the flow would be directed towards the right-of-way, like Hidden Brook Trail? Or,
I mean, I don't think it would go that far. It's going to be set back enough.
yeah, okay.
But if they're required, we'll definitely add them. It's no problem.
I think the question is, we don't know if it would be necessary or not. I think that needs to be evaluated. And it may not be that complicated. Scott could probably talk to that a little bit.
I'm looking at the contour map that was presented as part of the application. It looks like the surface flows from west to east. So I think you've got some natural relief that way. But I think what the comments are leading to is a more detailed plan showing perhaps landscaping that we can agree to and more detail on some of these items that were flagged by the town's engineer.
So I think what Scott's saying is if we can get on that survey map, you have some contours from, it looks like the GIS database for the county. And if we need to know where the water is going to flow and how you're managing it off of the barn, because if it's just sheet flow off of a roof, especially a large roof like that, typically you're going to get a lot of erosion along the drop zone, and unless you have a lot of stone there and a place for the water to be absorbed and or subsurface drainage. I mean, I can rattle off a few things, I suppose, that I could imagine, but I think you need to look at it and say, for certain, first of all, where's the leach field? So we're not impacting that
Yeah,
with the,
we know that,
with the
yeah.
water flow, and then, you know, how much water is coming off the barn, and where is it going to be directed, and will it be able to be handled without, you know, headed, it looks like it's not headed to your neighbors because it heads to the road first.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing, as long as the road's got the appropriate edge drainage to handle that too.
Yeah. And just to be sure you understood the chairman's comment about the septic system, I think your intent was to identify and clarify that the drainage from the roof of the barn wouldn't be directed over top of the leach field of the septic system, right? Not just avoiding the septic system with the construction of the barn, but also any drainage. We'd want to keep that away from the leach field of the septic.
Got it, okay.
So I think a drawing by a licensed professional would be very helpful in progressing your application. I'll defer to the board, but I think that's what Labella would prefer to see, especially given where we've been in other applications recently of the same nature.
I certainly think it would be prudent to make sure all those i's and t's are dotted and crossed, and that we know that it's not going to impact, you know, if you're having a river out onto the road, you don't want that either, but impacting your leach field and making sure that it's properly managed. But with a larger building, that's a concern. So unless the board,
I just have one other comment.
yeah, go ahead.
Overhead view. Across the road, there appears to be a large structure. Is that a barn?
That's a
Yeah,
pole
that's a
barn,
barn.
yes.
Yeah. Looks like it's bigger than the one you're planning.
Probably,
Same
yes,
size.
yeah.
Directly parallel. Pretty much.
Well, that's a good piece of information. One other item that I would add relative to drainage is, in addition to the, according to this map, the surface elevations go from west to east. It looks like there may be a swale, and there may be off-site drainage that needs to be considered as well. Part of this requirement that we're asking.
Yeah, and I think if you can take this feedback with you, and if you talk to a PE or a surveyor to help you assemble a drawing that the planning board can act on, I think that would be helpful, right? We've talked about drainage, we've talked about landscaping, grading, off-site and on-site drainage, I guess. I think that would be helpful for the board.
I think what you're hearing is you have one more step to do.
Yeah.
And I would add into that what your intent is for the appearance of the building, any kind of plantings that
Okay.
would help break up the large wall, at least on the roadside. It looks like your neighbors up the hill may not even see it, but,
No. And gutters have nothing, gutters is separate?
No, it's part
that's
of
part of
that-
drainage.
Just part of it?
Yeah.
Okay,
How are you gonna manage the water coming
Yeah.
off that roof?
okay.
It's collecting by, if you need 5 or 6 inch, sized gutters to handle the water that comes off of that, and then where's it gonna go?
Okay.
Will it go to a dry well? Will it go to, sheet off of a swale that heads its way down to the road? And make sure that it's diverted around the leach field. Those are the kind of things we've been checking off. And if you wanted to revisit these comments, you certainly are welcome to, bring them up to Lisa, and she can direct them back to Wes, and he can, review any questions you might have about what we're telling you, and, advise accordingly. So I think from the board's perspective, you're hearing that the size isn't the biggest issue here. It's more, we need certainty on the things we just talked about. So
Okay.
I think with that, what I can do is I can close the public hearing if there's a,
If you want, maybe before you close it, either ask if somebody else.
I was about to do that, yeah, okay. So before I ask for the closing of the public hearing, is there anyone else in the audience that has a question for the applicant or the board? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing. Al moves.
Second?
Joe seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Carried, 5-0. So public hearing's closed. You have some homework, and we'll see you back when you've got that stuff together. And if there's a question as to when you need it by, give the planning department a call. Lisa will be more than happy to help you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks. Next application, the Ortiz Fence. Application 25 SP 2023, zoned limited development district, 454 Fishers Road, owner David Ortiz. Coincidentally, he just stepped up a few minutes ago. Applicant is requesting approval to install a wooden picket fence, 3.5 feet high, and encompass 2,700 square feet in the back of the home. Evening.
Hi. Like I said, my name is David Ortiz. I live at 454 Fishers Road. Also, I did send a drawing just today. I received comments from the codes, and I had to touch base with the Department of Health, and I just heard back from them yesterday afternoon, so I was kind of updating that. So I did have to change the original layout a little bit. The area enclosed is roughly the same. So basically, putting in a picket fence in the backyard. Like I said before, I have a lot of kids. I have young kids. I'm right next to the highway. Fishers Road is a pretty busy road. People come down there, so we want to have a safe, enclosed space in the backyard to keep the kids in, the pet in, but also just to kind of make some delineated, established space for enjoying the backyard. We have a patio back there, picnic table, grill. We do a lot of outdoor stuff in the summer and spring and fall. So basically, it's a standard. Proposing basically what you can buy at Home Depot or Lowe's, standard picket fence, nominally doing 4x4 posts, 8 feet on center more or less. I am going to, instead of doing a kit, I am going to do rails and pickets individually to follow the lay of the land, because there's a fair amount of up and down in the area where I'm proposing. So rather than having to worry about putting in set kit pieces and then having to fill in underneath or dig out, I'm just going to lay the posts all the same size to the local grade, and then rails and pickets to follow that. The 2 gates proposed, one on the side of the nearest to the driveway on the south side, south-facing side. There had been one proposed for the west-facing side, but just based to having to reroute it based on the location of the leach field, we're switching that location a little bit. The updated drawing that I did send. So I will say the 3 lines on the left, the 1 line on the right, those are exaggerated lines just to kind of show where the solid plastic pipe is coming out of the distribution box. I don't have a clear indication of where they turn and lay out for the leach field itself. I incidentally do have the septic company coming tomorrow to do a pump out, and I'll ask them to confirm, but based on where there's trees in the yard and other obstructions that have been there for 30 years or more, I'm assuming that it roughly runs east-west through the yard, going basically straight up. Those pipes probably turn and go straight up. Either way, where we're routing is staying clear of the known direction of those plastic pipes coming out of the distribution box. And so the only difference here is planning to straddle the main line going between the septic and the distribution box, just for the sake of the fact that where the septic is right in the middle of the backyard, if trying to avoid that entirely, otherwise basically would have to cancel the plan to do the fence. There wouldn't be much point in closing otherwise. So I did talk to the PE Cheryl Robbins at the Department of Health for this area, for Ontario County. She mentioned that the solid line between the septic and the distribution box doesn't pose the same risk as it would going over like the perforated pipe of a absorption field. So as long as there's proper keep out for the post holes from that, there should be, in her opinion, I said that should be sufficient. So that out there, that's all what I've got so far. Any questions or comments?
Thank you. Scott?
I'm looking at your diagram here that you did.
Yes, sir.
You did this based on, did you have record information on the wastewater system as it was installed, or this is just your best estimate?
Well, I actually, so I found this septic system company that serviced the house prior, and I actually have dug up the distribution box and unearthed it myself, and actually have put eyes on the location of those pipes. The septic tank itself, I'm just guessing based on the burn-up pattern of the grass in the warm weather, where you see the very clear delineation of the box. And I have a drawing from the company also that lays it out in the same location, and it's a hand-drawn map from when they last serviced the property, and I traced it out, and it lines up with that location that I found.
So there's some surface indicators that tell you where the septic tank is, and you dug up the distribution box? Is that what you said?
Yes, that's correct.
And you're having someone come to pump out the septic tank, and I guess it'll verify the location when they do that? Is that right?
That's correct.
And so you're straddling the outlet of the septic tank, but you're just fencing over it. You're not putting any posts through it. You're putting the post presumably on the other side. It looks like the gate maybe is.
Yep, that's the
going
point.
directly over it.
Yes, sir.
So I think this is a pretty reasonable sketch. We don't usually get too many like this. Usually they're a lot more vague. So I don't think I have any more questions.
Okay. Ernie?
Like a pretty big septic tank.
Yeah, like I said, I wasn't able to verify the exact dimensions just based on what I'm seeing at the surface level for the pattern. I measured it out of where I'm seeing pretty sharp corners in the grass where the colors change. It could be a little more, less than that.
What's its capacity, do you know?
I do not. I have 7 people in the house, and it's been multiple years, and we haven't had an issue, so.
Go ahead, Joe.
Okay. Joe?
I mirror Scott's concerns, and I'm satisfied with your answers. It'd be a heck of a thing to put an auger down through one of those lines, so.
Yes, agreed.
I appreciate your efforts to locate everything like you did.
Thank you.
No?
Nothing else.
Nothing? Okay. Public hearing. So open it up to the public if there's any questions for Mr. Ortiz or the board. Okay, seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Joe moves.
Okay.
Ernie, gotcha. Ernie's
All right.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, public hearing is closed. Wes, any comments?
No comments.
Okay. I think we've gone a little bit back and forth with Mr. Ortiz, the department has, right, to help navigate the septic or leach field interference.
Yeah, I was really happy to hear the applicant's testimony about reaching out to Cheryl Robbins at the Department of Health. I think that's very helpful. That kind of helps me with having a level of comfort with the proposal.
He's a good engineer.
She agreed with you, by the way.
Okay, well, I don't think the board sees an issue with this project. It's laid out to our satisfaction and looks like it'll do the job, so. I'm sorry? Yeah, okay. I was just looking through the pile here to make sure I had it. I do have a resolution, so no objections, I'll go ahead and read it. Thank you. So whereas the planning board made the following findings of fact for the Ortiz fence, 454 Fishers Road, application 25 SP 2023. And there are 6 of them. Whereas the Town of Victor Planning Board reviewed the unlisted action on June 28, 2023 and identified no significant impacts. Now therefore be it resolved that the project Ortiz fence will not have a significant adverse impact on the environment and that a negative declaration will be prepared. And be it further resolved that the application of David Ortiz, a site plan entitled Ortiz Fence, received by the Planning Board June 5th, 2023, Planning Board application 25 SP 2023, be approved with the following conditions. Conditions to be addressed prior to the chairman's signature on the site plan. Number 1 is standard. Number 2, that all comments contain a letter dated June 16th, 2023, from the Town of Victor Code Enforcement Officer be addressed. Ongoing conditions, both of them are standard, and be it further resolved that the Planning Board Secretary distribute the Planning Board's approval letter. I hear a motion on this resolution.
I'll move.
Ernie moves.
Second.
Scott seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Carried 5-0. Okay, folks, bear with me a second. So the next item was mobile graphics. That was tabled until the July 25th meeting, as Keith said earlier. Item 6 now is 117 Victor Heights Parkway fence. The owner's Victor Heights Campus LLC applicant is requesting approval to install a 6-foot-high chain link fence in the rear of the parking lot. The applicant here, or applicant's engineer? Well, I guess we can table this for the next meeting. So Keith, we'll carry it forward. All right, our last item on the agenda, a recommendation from the town board on the PDD for 7200 Rawson Road. PDD, 7200 Rawson Road. Applicant is requesting to rezone property at 7200 Rawson Road, totaling 22.5 acres, from light industrial to a new planned development district. And we had an extensive discussion about this last week with Mr. Vars taking extensive notes, I'm sure. And Wes has got his a copy of his resolution for this one.
Document for you. Okay, where we left off at the last meeting with this project, we did go through a draft resolution on the 11 criteria. And so what I've just handed out for you now is an update to what we looked at the last meeting. So this is a track changes document. So anything that you see that is underlined in red, that's new content. And there are some cross-outs to delete some of the previous either errors or typos or leftovers from a previous project. So I don't know if we want to go through this entire document. It's a total of 8 pages. But this may be in a condition where you might want to take action tonight. I guess we'll have to see after we go through some of these modifications. So why don't we start out with number 1, the need for the proposed development. And we talked about this, obviously, at the last meeting. And I'll start out on page 2, the top of page 2, and I'll just kind of read that aloud so the public can follow along here with what we're looking at. So a build-out study was completed for the town in 2005 that forecast a maximum density residential build-out of approximately 8,242 units outside of the Village of Victor. The planning board understands that the 2005 build-out figure was not established as a limitation, but is simply a benchmark for recognizing what the anticipated build-out would be for the land use regulations that were in place in 2005. The 2020 census indicates the town contains 6,869 housing units, leaving 1,373 units to be built to reach the maximum build-out from 2005. The proposed housing units of the current proposal would not have been included in the 2005 build-out figure, as the land is zoned light industrial. Using the comprehensive plan as a guide, the planning board suggests the town board consider the effect of adding 63 residential units to the 2005 build-out number of 8,242 units, as well as the cumulative and incremental impact of the proposed 63 units, in addition to the following other recent projects that were also not accounted for in the 2005 build-out. A, the 2020 rezoning of Highline Park PDD, allowing for 146 units. 2021 Southgate 2 density overlay modification, allowing for 29 units where 19 were previously allowed, an increase in 10 units. And also in 2021, the Stonebrook density overlay modification, allowing for 85 units where 33 were previously allowed, which is an increase of 52 units. And since 2020, the cumulative requests that have been approved, plus this current request, equates to 271 residential units that were not accounted for in a 2005 benchmark build-out figure of the 8,242 residential units. Therefore, the 2005 build-out figure plus the requests since 2020 equates to 8,513 residential units. Again, the planning board wishes to emphasize that there is no maximum residential build-out limitation imposed by the comprehensive plan or the build-out analysis that was performed in 2005. The next paragraph goes into the mix of residential uses to serve a variety of demographics, including economic and household size. The multifamily units are sized based on the builder's experience of the types of units being proposed. The applicant contends the project would serve the need of several demographics, including empty nester, single-parent households, young families, and single-person households. The applicant also contends these are in-demand markets for 2023. The form of housing is addressing a need for smaller lot style living and steers away from the historically popular larger lot single-family homes. The project would allow for development of greater density and some limited diversity of housing in close proximity to the village. The applicant contends that the rezoning will provide for a residential community to be developed that would be marketed towards multiple demographics, including empty nesters, single-parent households, young families, and single-person households. While the project may provide residential opportunity for middle and high-income demographic, the project does not seem to include residential opportunities for lower income demographic. And specifically, the proposed development would support a portion of the following residential goals identified in the Town of Victor Comprehensive Plan. Encourage the provision of a diversity of housing types for a variety of age groups, family sizes, and income levels. Encourage development of in a manner to efficiently utilize land, transportation, utility systems, and other support services. And in the middle of this page, page 3, I've also added a bullet point that identifies the proposed development would support strategy 10 in the comp plan, allow for a greater density and diversity of housing around the village and in specific hamlet areas. Are there any comments or questions on this particular component, number 1, the need for the proposed development?
I appreciate, Wes, the clarification that you've made about the densities and and the references to the comp plan in here. So
Okay.
I think it helps a lot answer this question, or at least address this question for the board.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think also identifying some of the projects we've had recently where we adjusted the overlay district in a similar way to a PDD, I think that's a helpful item to cite.
Okay, I'll move along here. I didn't have any changes to number
All right,
2.
hang on a second.
Oh,
Peter Vars from BME. I just wanted to point out, and I don't know if this was on purpose, which is in the first revision, you note it's 63 units. It's actually proposed at 69.
that's going to change my math.
I know.
Yes, you're right.
So
Yeah,
that's all.
Of course you're right. All right. Yep, I need to fix, so we'll fix that.
Are there more copies of that available? There weren't enough to go around.
Well, the question from the audience is are there other copies of this? I think there will be available to the residents a final copy.
What I can do
Planning department.
is I can share it on my screen, and we can,
Will that help, at least as we're going through this?
I think that's the best I can do right now.
Yeah. As far as getting a copy of it, you can get that through the planning department once we've completed this form, made any changes or corrections and updates. Right now, this is a working document for us, so. Wes is going to bring up what he has on the screen here, so you can see that. I don't know how easy it's going to be for you to read.
So this, what you're looking at here is the very beginning of the document, which has not changed since the last, I guess it was last month, or was it 2 weeks ago? Time's flying. Anyway, this is the component that we just went through. This is the track changes document. This goes through the need of the proposed development, right? And then we're on to number 2 here. I don't know that we want to revisit that at this point, number 2. If we want to just go through the changes.
No, I think we,
Or would you like
if
to
we
go
had
through?
any comments or questions at the meeting, you made the changes to address those.
Yeah.
So I think we've done this, gone through it, and I think we should move on to the ones where it's,
Okay. So with number 3, the extent to which the plan departs from the zoning regulations formally applicable to the property in question, including bulk density and permitted uses. So basically in here, we've got what the existing zoning is, light industrial, and the permitted uses in the light industrial district. We've identified those. And you'll see here at the bottom of number 3, we've added some language. The town board should consider whether to encourage or require specifying other uses within this PDD besides just residential, which is a fundamental idea behind a planned or mixed-use district. For example, encouraging, allowing, or requiring a specific use, such as a daycare center, bakery, or some other use providing an essential service to the neighborhood. So here, we're just asking the town board to consider. Right? We're not necessarily suggesting that they do that, but maybe they ought to consider, think about that.
I think that arose out of a discussion regarding the building that's now vacant and what it could be used for. So it's not a directive to the applicant, but it is a request that the town board, as Wes just said, consider looking at helping shape what happens at that building as well, I believe.
Okay. All right. Number 4. Oh, go ahead.
I hesitate to allow interruptions. If there's something that's unclear, I'd be glad to help with that. If you can step up, please.
Hi, yes, Carol Thornton, 1035 Chapel Hill. So it says the town board should consider whether to encourage. So is that what the town board is suggesting?
No.
Okay.
No. So where we are, this rezoning application that the applicant submitted to the town, the town board received that application and is referring it to this board, the planning board, for a recommendation. They've asked the
Okay.
planning board, could you look at this application for rezoning and tell us your thoughts, right? And the town code specifies these 11 criteria which the planning board needs to look at and respond to and provide that feedback to the town board. So this resolution is simply a recommendation after the planning board has reviewed this rezoning application. It's just feedback to the town board. It's not, if this resolution is adopted, that's not any approval of the project at all. It's just formal feedback from this board to the town board following the rezoning process for a PDD. So these are just thoughts for the town board to consider.
Okay, so while everything is still fluid, these are things just to consider
Yeah.
as we move along. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate your making sure that we can keep it clear to you folks that are listening. And so, go ahead, Wes.
Okay. With number 4, the existing character of the neighborhood and the relationship beneficial or adverse of the proposed development to this neighborhood. We talked about the density of the proposed project in comparison to the density of the neighboring community. And we did identify in here that the project proposes 69 residential units, not 63. Here's some additional text for this section. While the applicant has contended there would be a minimum of a 68-foot buffer between the closest, got a typo there, closest townhome and the existing light industrial building, the graphic seems to depict this is a separation distance only with minimal vegetation between the buildings. However, it is not likely that the proposed residential townhomes would have an adverse impact on the existing light industrial use. Number 5, really nothing of substance there. I've deleted some of the errors that were leftovers from last time we were here. Number 6, the provision for pedestrian circulation and open space in the planned development district. Just some clarification words.
Yeah, a second. Is there something quick, Marcia?
Anything to read? Marcia Sengus, 1231 Wellington. I just wanted to make a clarification on the number 5. If you could go back a minute, Wes, where it says the Drumlins residential neighborhood. Right there, the Drumlins residential.
Last paragraph of number 5.
The Drumlins residential neighborhood has a density of 2.8 units per acre, and then it goes on to the 3.7 units per acre. The 3.7 is correct, and that includes the proposed houses and the townhomes. Our Drumlins community is houses and townhomes, and I believe if you do the math, the 2.8 only takes into consideration the townhomes, and Wellington Drive, Burlington, and Silver Hill Path. This is all the Drumlins. And if you do the math, including the homes and the townhomes, which is what's being proposed, the actual density is it's half of the 3.7. So I think it's only fair to, if you're comparing apples to apples, that the proposed development are the 8 homes and the townhomes, and our Drumlins community are Wellington, Silver Hill Path, Burlington, and the townhomes. I just would think that would be a good clarification there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank you.
We could clarify that, I believe. Thank you, Marcia. So I guess if you be specific about the 2.8 and say it's related to the townhomes themselves,
Yep, we can do that.
you could also add,
We will
The
double check,
overall
we'll double check our
development,
calculation and clarify what that calculation includes.
okay.
So for,
Must, I think that the second point of that,
Yep.
though, would be to also do the calculation to consider the totality of the Drumlins area.
Yeah, I think that's.
Show both numbers.
Yeah,
Yep.
he was-
Both
That's,
defined.
that's fine.
I agree.
Out of curiosity, is the Drumlins a PDD?
No.
Good point.
The provision for pedestrian circulation and open space in the planned development. I've added some language here towards the end in response to our recommendation from last time we were here, including a sidewalk. We talked about having a sidewalk and connection to the eight single-family homes. The applicant has proposed a small length of sidewalk and a crosswalk to connect the 8 single-family homes to the intersection of Burlington Road and Rawson Road. And there is a sidewalk there on the south side that would provide that connectivity. At a minimum, the town board should still evaluate the potential benefit of having the developer provide a sidewalk on the north side of Rawson Road between Private Road A and the intersection of the Auburn Trail with Rawson Road to the east.
I've got two questions or two comments. The first is, they talk about the wetlands, and it shows a buffer around the wetlands, and yet the buffer intersects lots 7 and 8 for the single-family homes. What's the purpose of the buffer? And is it going to keep like lawn fertilizers, herbicides and things like that out of the wetlands, or do we have a problem there?
So I don't believe that the buffer is going to impose any unreasonable restrictions on the development of those lots. Potentially, maybe you could have a conservation easement there. That's the DEC imposed buffer, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and anything that would be proposed in there, I think would have to be, there's some DEC review if you're going to do any development within the buffer land, I believe. Sure, if you could convey whether or not you're proposing anything to occur in the buffer area, that would be helpful.
Okay. Peter Vars from BME. So the DEC buffer area is regulated by DEC. What DEC will require is those areas are placed in deed restrictions, that they're demarcated on the property so that it travels with the deed of the property. Any disturbance within that area requires either a letter of permission or a permit from the New York State DEC.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then my second comment is I appreciate the concept of putting a crosswalk and a sidewalk for access down to the east. There's already a proposed access to the Auburn Trail from the townhouses there running up against, I think it looks like building 24. Why not utilize that crosswalk for the folks on Burlington and maybe some of the others to walk right along that buffer area directly to the Auburn Trail rather than going all the way down to the east? It just might add some value to the neighborhood there. So just something to consider maybe. Thanks, that's all I got.
Thanks, Joe. Anybody else?
Nope.
Okay.
Oh, let's give him a pointer.
Here. There's a pointer there, too.
Sure. So it
I'll make
looks
sure
like
you're-
there's a proposed connection to the Auburn Trail right here.
Can you use your mic too?
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, that's my line. Payback.
Pat your head around your stomach.
So it looks like there's a connection or proposed connection to the Auburn Trail right here for the residents in the townhomes. And rather than put a crosswalk here and having everybody walk down to access the trail here, running a path right along here would give access, more easy access perhaps for the folks on this side of the street, right directly to the Auburn Trail.
Well, I know that, yeah.
Just a thought, you're looking at the map, and
Yeah.
I'm kind of lazy not to want to
Right,
walk
that-
any further than I have to.
Yeah, I appreciate that
That's what we're
comment,
trying to
right?
get to, I guess, Joe.
That's probably something that we could talk about down the road
Right.
in further
Right.
design, right? I know there's a stream, it looks like there's probably a stream crossing there, and, but,
Yeah, some of these are
Something to
more
consider.
detailed design review questions and
Okay,
that,
sure.
and it's not that it's not relevant, but it's not a focus of what we're doing today.
I'm still learning the process, so that's okay.
That's fine.
he's thinking.
I appreciate the snark about the microphone.
Just keep it in your pocket and you'll remember it.
I think also it ties into a comment that we had last time, where the PDD zoning offers, flexibility with issues like that. I think that's really a critical word, and it's an important word for PDD. I personally think it's the right type of zoning for a project like this. I think the board thought so as well, a few years back when they granted that zoning status.
And just to follow up, to clarify, when we were talking about the sidewalk issue, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but now I think what you've proposed in response to the discussion at the last meeting is a sidewalk that might extend from this area to about the intersection of this roadway and then provide a crosswalk here, which then connects to an existing sidewalk that's on the south side, right? And then, so what I've also incorporated into this draft resolution, and you'll have to let me know if you're in agreement with it or if you want to remove it, is given that they've provided that or offered that as a connection, would you still want to have a sidewalk on the north side of Rawson Road connecting from this location down here to the Auburn Trail as well? Right now, I've got that recommendation in the resolution, but I'm not sure if you're in agreement.
It's not only a path to the Auburn Trail, it's also a path to the village. It's a lot easier than having folks cross the street, so I think it could stay.
So, and just for full disclosure here, they did provide a crosswalk at this location, right, to access the sidewalk that is on the south side of the street. So basically, what I've included here would be a second sidewalk for both sides of the street, just so it's clear. Okay.
I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Yeah, given the proximity to the village and the fact that the village has sidewalks on both sides, I think it works.
Okay. All right, let me see where we're at.
Number
Right,
7.
so we went through 8, or 6 rather.
Yep, we've gone through number 6. 7 and 8, I don't have any modifications there.
Yep, Wes, I have a
Yes, sir.
couple suggestions for 8.
Great.
So in the paragraph where it says, although a service level analysis has not been provided to date, it is noted that traffic is, I would suggest strike anticipated to be, has the potential to be less under the proposed PDD versus a build-out of a light industrial.
Okay.
And then, but greater than the current as-is state.
Okay.
And then the other point was, potentially to suggest to the town board to also consider the proposed high-density development under review in the village of Victor at the intersection of School and Rawson Road.
Okay. Got it. Good additions. Okay. Number 9, the provision for storm, sanitary, and solid waste disposal and other utilities on the property adjacent to the site, as well as the site itself. Towards the end, we've added some language here. The planning board also recommends that the town board look into the long-term costs and maintenance requirements if the town were to consider accepting the proposed dedication of a new sewer pump station, and whether the proposed infrastructure fits within what has been considered with the 2016 Farmington Victor Sewer Plan and the 2023 Draft Sewer Master Plan.
That's good.
Okay. And number 10, the proposed landscaping and signage. The planning board requests that the developer revisit the 2014 PDD proposal that incorporated a 100-foot landscape and stormwater management buffer and discuss with the town board how an alternative layout that incorporates such a buffer would be beneficial or detrimental to the project and neighborhood. And then on number 11, the manner in which the physical design makes adequate provisions for the service demands, water, sewer, fire, etc., adequate traffic control, and the amenities of light, air, and visual enjoyment. Regarding private road C, which would serve the 8 single-family residences, the proposed frontage road is a design feature encouraged by the 2019 Town of Victor Access Management Plan, Requirement 12 on page 19. The frontage road reduces multiple lot access connections directly to the public road, Rawson Road. Okay. So, that kind of encapsulates the modifications per the discussion and feedback that we had at the last meeting. Happy to take any more thoughts that you might have as a board, or if you wanted to either act on this, or if you wanted to clean it up first before acting on it.
The only other comment I had was under the now therefore be it resolved section, where we had penned in 3.7 units per acre to be no more, the density to be no greater than.
Yep.
Proposed 2.8. My personal
No more than
suggestion.
2.8. Okay,
Again, I'm not speaking on behalf of my board members.
understood. So now therefore be it resolved, number 2, as the PDD concept, last page, very last page.
Which I believe is consistent with the previous PDD approval.
Number 2.
I think the density is a function of the design that happens after the zoning is achieved.
Yeah, it was 2.6.
Or 2.6 in the previous approval. Scott, I do agree, right, that the density is an outcome of the design, but we spent extensive time in the previous PDD to land on the 2.6 is a good fit, so
Okay.
I think I prefer to see that as the envelope versus something greater than that.
What was the previous PDD that we did?
I believe it was 48 single-family homes. Is that correct, Peter?
And that PDD was on the same property then?
Yes.
So you're adhering to what was established before? Okay. I wasn't aware of that. But I guess just to add on to the conversation a little bit more, you know, what has changed in terms of housing need and demand since that? And is it reasonable to think that maybe we should look at a higher density just based on housing trends, demographics, other things?
It's a good point.
I mean, I can tell you, being in the business, and I think Peter could probably as well, indicate that certainly a big change from what I remember Victor was 30 years ago when I built here in terms of just basic single-family residences. I think there's a big dynamic change. My kids, and I presume your kids as well, are not going for the same type of housing that we went for when we came here. I think this project is a reflection of that. So when it comes to density, yeah, I mean, if I lock into a density that was agreed to in 2014, that may have been good at the time, and I think it was affected by the market at the time. I think the market's changed a lot since 2014.
Don't disagree, markets change, but I'm back to the design, the fit for the site, which is where I was coming from.
Okay.
So.
Well, I'm wondering, Peter, before I give you a chance, Al, the fit for the site, I'm just looking at it from the previous application. It takes up a considerable amount of property for single-family homes versus a more consolidated number of homes. It may take the same or less actual impact footprint and have more homes. So I think your comment's certainly worthwhile and to consider. I think we also need to look at the land impact, not just the number of homes.
Land impact is one, but again, I'd look at traffic impacts, impact on the total town infrastructure, impacts on the school district, right? All of those things
Okay.
have also only gotten worse since the previous approval, so
All right,
it's looking at a combination of factors.
okay. Peter, you had something you'd like to add?
The only thing I would just like clarification for is I want to be clear that this would be a recommendation, because it says calls for. So what does that, my point is what I'm looking for is that this is not the directive to the town board, that density is now established at 2.6, I don't even know what number we're at, that you're establishing the density at this stage, because just all the information is not there, is my concern. And then also, if the board chooses to use that number, I would ask that the term up to is struck, because that would even constitute that density could get lowered further. The discussion we had 2 weeks ago was we suggested using the language up to, knowing it wasn't going to be anything more, but the potential existed that it would be less as the project design moved forward. I think it's premature to establish density at this stage. Al, you
And the whole
bring-
document is a recommendation to the
Yes,
side, so
exactly.
They can tear it up and start fresh.
Yeah, my point is, and all your points are valid and worth examination through seeker and everything, all those impacts. Without a doubt, they have to be addressed. Yes.
And again, the language here says no more than 3.7, and I suspect that when the town board takes this up, the public will be discussing density issues with them again before a decision is made.
And again, Peter, right, that wasn't, I'll call it a random number. I mean, we went through the entire.
No, I understood where you
design,
come from.
seeker,
Yes.
And landed on a number, so.
No, I
think
do
that's a-
understand where your number is coming from, yes.
Yeah, I'm just reading in the town code here, and I'm sure you've read it as well. The town board shall consider the report and recommendations of the planning board, address seeker requirements and all other comments, reviews and statements pertaining thereto, and shall hold a public hearing after proper public notice and required for any amendment to these regulations. So, yeah, so whatever, if there's a number here that the planning board suggests in this resolution, whether it be 3.7 or 2.8, right, that's, as I think you would understand, that's a recommendation, right? And that's not setting the ultimate density threshold, right? The town board, as Al said, they can tear it up and say, no, we're going this way. Thanks, planning board, but.
Do we need to put out a number? Do we need to establish a number now?
No, not necessarily, right? I mean, this is,
My impression was that this is in response to the application. They're
Yep.
proposing a certain density.
Yep.
We're making our comments on all of this, and I think our comment regarding density should be more, I'll call it qualitative. Consider the fact that the previous application was of lower density and traffic impact than what's being currently resolved. That consideration should be made by the town board for this application. You see what I'm saying? Maybe I didn't say it quite eloquently enough, but
No, I understood.
yeah, okay. He's skeptical.
Well, I say, if this was the first time we ever saw an applicant for a PDD in this property, I'd say we should be very flexible and open-ended with it, but again, an awful lot of due diligence went into that approval process. And
Understood.
get it a spot. And I think the pressures on the town have only gotten worse since then, including the need for housing and everything else. But on balance, I just think that my personal suggestion would be that's a good starting point.
And the irony in that a little bit, Al, is, because again, everything you said, we experienced it together. But then, a year later, the comprehensive plan, the new comprehensive plan was drafted and adopted. which actually has been cited in this resolution, had created a lot new goals, and one of them being higher density use of infill areas close to the village.
Which this accomplishes.
Right, so my point being is that for lack of a better term, the playing field has changed a little bit, but I think what we're saying, though, that onus is on the town board to decide. And that's all I want to be sure of, is just that, it's just what you said, Wes, is what the code lays out, that discussion is held there. That doesn't preclude the discussion, I should say.
So I guess where we come down on this is we have a number in here. It's what the developer is proposing. I'm hearing that there's concern regarding density and that it be examined more closely to see if it's the appropriate number.
Yeah, right. Maybe we modify this particular paragraph to indicate that, just what you said. Maybe we take out the exact, units per acre and just identify that, it's an ongoing concern. There are arguments, or not arguments, but there are perspectives that look at the historical context of the 2014 proposal and the due diligence that was done at that time, and the care that was done at that time to limit the density to 48 units on the project property versus, what Mr. Vars has cited in terms of the adoption of the comprehensive plan and the strategies that are outlined in there, and the changing world circumstances or preferences of people looking to get into homes today. Maybe there is a larger component of the population that is looking for the smaller townhome style of residence versus the single-family detached units that were proposed in 2014. Maybe we just kind of articulate it in that form and take out
Right.
the.
But again, then the balanced equation would also indicate, again, growth that has occurred since then, increased traffic issues, increased capacity issues at the school, right? I mean, we always want to talk about the good things that have happened since then and kind of ignore the bad things, so I'm okay if we leave it to the fact that, recommends, right, kind of the first sentence that you had, right, that says it be further reviewed or considered given all changes that have occurred since 2014.
Yeah.
Something like that, versus leading the witness down a path that says it,
Yep.
3.7 sounds like the right answer.
I think that's a good approach. I think I agree with Peter. I think it's premature to establish a number at this point.
All right, so in my perspective, I think there's enough in here where it would be nice to have a clean document to look at and take action on maybe at the next meeting.
Yep.
Is that okay?
I won't be here, so yes.
All right.
I'll make sure Jim or Scott is here.
Yeah, I think, and it will be.
But no, I agree. That makes sense, yes.
It'll be a pretty straightforward discussion. You'll have another red line document. Here's what we talked about. Here are the points, 15 minutes maybe, or, and then we can act on it. But at least you'll have a chance to formulate the wording, and we'll have a chance to review it.
You guys will have, yeah.
Yeah, before we actually vote it. So
Agreed.
Okay.
I
Agreed.
think with that, we'll conclude this evening's discussion. Unless there's an objection? Okay.
Somebody's raising their hand back there.
Come on up.
Darrell Russell from Drumlins 2 there. I just have a comment that, I don't know if it's in the town or not. Snow plowing. We live up there, and we're on what they designate as a private road, not the town road there. And, we have, issues with snow plowing where the snow goes. And I look at the sketch there with the 69 homes on it, and I guess there's the driveway there. Where are they going to put the snow? I don't know. That's my only concern about the thing. Would the residents really be happy in that, or what's going
I
on
believe
there?
the town highway department will have an opportunity to review any plan we put forward and comment on the appropriateness of the road layout and storage areas for snow and
I'm not sure they
things
did
that-
that up there in Drumlins,
Well-
where we live too, but
all
anyway.
right, so Wes is correcting me. This is proposed as a plan development district as a private road, so it'll be more like in the Drumlins townhomes themselves that are privately maintained.
Yeah.
So, thank you, Wes, for correcting me.
So also, there's an opportunity here for design modification, right? Just, this is kind, I don't want to call it a first stab, right? Because I'm sure there's been a lot of thought put into the design as we see it. But the design can be further refined, and that's why eventually this would come back if the property gets rezoned, if the town board moves forward with the rezoning. The project comes back to this board for site plan and subdivision review, and that's where we're going to get into the nitty-gritty about some of these points, right?
Okay.
Snow plowing, and the planning board members' comment on a potential trail connection. Yeah, there's a lot more design review to happen.
The same thing with a buffer between those few townhomes and the commercial building that's right next door, a light industrial building. That's a little pet peeve of mine. I think it's way too close, and we'll have a chance to review and comment on it as well. They may propose a different layout. We'll see.
Yeah, just, you just triggered another thought. Refuse pickup. We're on a private, so-called private road, dead-end street, and a garbage truck goes down one side, then backs up. I hate that, backing up with those big trucks. The good thing here is they could go around and go a loop around there. You don't necessarily have to back up.
Yeah,
So
there's
that's a positive aspect in refuse.
There will be a hammerhead turnaround at the very end, but that's, you know.
Yeah, anyway, thank you.
So, okay.
Welcome.
You'll get a chance to see us again. Okay. Thank you, everyone, for your patience this evening, and I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Who moves? I'm sorry? We've concluded our discussions. We're going to be voting on this next time to forward our recommendation to the town board of the document that we've just gone through with some changes that we've offered. So, does that help?
There is a point I'd like to raise for clarification.
Step up to the
Yeah,
microphone,
you'll have to
please.
step up to the mic.
Hi, Carol Thornton. It was raised at the last meeting, the question about the existing industrial building that's there. And I had been interested to know what were any of the plans for that. It's identified as, I think, about 4 acres. And in tonight's proposal, there was something that was a recommendation that from, I believe it was the town board to this committee, you know, that possibly other types of goods and services might be a positive thing in this area. At the last meeting, there was really not a lot of definition as to, you know, what I understood to have been said was, it's going to stay as it is. But then there was a little bit of a door opening on, well, it's probably going to be subdivided. So I'm just very much unclear as to that building and that site, because to me, it is part and parcel of the whole development. And I think the development, in a positive way, addresses so many of the issues that are needed, the different types of families, single parents, older folks. So I think this is such a tremendous opportunity. But I guess when I look at the picture, it seems like there are a lot of monopoly squares in one part of the diagram, and yet then there's a large other slice of property that I mean, I don't know. If that's going to be developed in a different way, could that be incorporated into this? So I don't know. I don't know whether I'm asking things that are out of turn, but I just see this as a total project.
I think that's something you certainly bring up to the town board as they're deliberating with their review of this project.
So I do think it has so many positive things, the linkage to the trail, the addressing density, but maybe not quite as dense. You know, I think there's a difference between a single-family home and 5-unit townhouses that are all attached under one roof. So thank you so much for your time and
You're welcome.
and all your due diligence and hard work.
Thank you.
So, Wes, before I go for this adjournment, she triggered off a question that I had last time, and I think you and I discussed it briefly, was there's a parking lot that's in the village and a building in the town. Is the parking lot part of this planned development district?
No, if the parking lot, the component, any land that's in the village is not part of this PDD.
So how does the building have enough parking associated with it if it's not part of the planned development district? I think the town board really needs to look at that, and I would appreciate it if we could put it
Put it in our recommendation?
recommendation, and
We can
I'm
do
sure
that.
you'll think of something between now and then
Yeah.
that we vote on this that would address that, but I would like that addressed. And I think it's a real hole in the plan, so to speak.
Yeah.
Because of the the village-town boundary really messes it up. If you didn't have this development, all the residential piece of it, you'd have a huge piece of lot on which to place parking for other uses of that building. Now you don't. All you have is a building with a lot that's in the village. That will be coming from me, if nobody else. Okay. So, having said all that, and we do have a motion and second to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
So discussion, have a great weekend.
We're going to have a planning board staff meeting this week?